The Marvels. I saw it, I'm mad about it, and now I want to talk about it. And I'm assuming that's why you're here. You're not here to actually get a breakdown of the complex themes that exist in late stage Marvel that we will come to know the moments before the demise of the great empire. You're here to commiserate because you're probably a former diehard Marvel fan the way I was for so many years, where there was so much meaning and joy to be taken out of these properties. And now it's just tears and depression. It's like if you have to go, like, right as you get over the death of a parent, you have to go, like, see their corpse every 6 months to be reminded that they've been taken from you. I thought about rating this movie on 2 scales. Like, one, my honest, like, if I didn't have any engagement with this stuff, what I thought, and I really tried to get in that mode. My default is to compare it to how it used to be because that's how it should be. Do you talk about The Godfather 3 as if The Godfather 1 didn't exist? Like, even Taken 3 might have been somewhat passable as a guilty pleasure Liam Neeson movie, but given that Taken 1 exists, it's so shitty by comparison, and that has to factor into it. I mean, the recent Jurassic Park movies, think about any franchise, Transformers, that just circled the drain harder and harder the farther they went. This is part of that, and I still watch the old ones. So that gap, it's just a knife in the wound every time. So we're going to talk about the mechanics. I'm going to talk about who I think is to blame and what needs to happen. Plot, theme, or fucking lack of, the corny style, how cheap it was, and then at the end, I'm going to do a quick spitfire of 10 reasons Dar-Benn is the worst villain ever created anywhere at any time in history. So let's get to it. So first things first, I want to talk about who's to blame because this movie is exactly as bad as anybody has said it was. I've seen all the bad reviews before I went, and it was still worse than I thought. And to hear people try to rationalize or explain, like, oh, I had fun. If you're just, bubbly and lighthearted, like, you can have fun. That rating scale is for children. That rating scale is for people that don't need a plot, don't need acting, don't need to understand what's going on with the storyline or the lore. They just need to be told what's going on. That's who that is for. It's for people that have an IQ of 79 and they like saying, hey, it's my favorite superhero. That's what that grading scale exists for. If you've ever seen a movie that has been done with quality, with time, care, and attention, this is a 0.5 out of 10. It looks and sounds and feels like it was AI made, corny dialogue. The plot's horrible. If there is a plot, there's no underlying themes. There's no complexity. It's tonally inconsistent. And it looks like it was reshot 15 times. The studio fingerprints are just all over this thing. So I can't blame the director for what I know. I mean, there's always shit you don't know, but they were saying she bailed early to go do other stuff. And if you figure out the history of Marvel and Disney with not giving a ton of creative control because they want their properties to have this sanitized Disney sheen to it that everybody loves. And then you figure that it went through these reshoots and went longer. No wonder. Like, do you get paid more if you stick around? You're like, no, I can go actually direct, which is what I do. And I can do so. And that's what she did. And she went off to do something in the meantime. And she's probably like, I can just do this over Skype, guys, because I'm not even really doing anything. This movie didn't feel directed. Felt like a lot of things. It didn't feel directed. You'll know what I mean when you see it. Camera work, subtleties, like stylistic decisions. It felt like stock. Honestly, it felt like there was just a bunch of stock footage from Infinity War and the Guardians movies, and they slapped together a movie. 100% what it feels like. I've heard people blame Brie and company, or at least Brie Larson. I know she's not well liked. This is even about her PR disaster. It's about Brie Larson is objectively a fantastic actress. I hope that gets me hate because it's true. I enjoyed her comedically. I think she's fine in good comedic roles. 21 Jump Street, United States of Terror. I enjoyed those. Then I saw her in Room. If you haven't, go see Room. It is a mind-blowing performance. It is gut-wrenching, emotional drama. Brie Larson has range, believe it or not. She, however, was not the character that was so charismatic by herself that she could be likable and carry such an empty nothing of a script. Denzel Washington and Anthony Hopkins can do that. You could put Morgan Freeman in Batman, and I'll watch that shit right now with like 90-year-old Morgan Freeman. There's some people that they bring that gravitas to everything they do. And this movie needed that. Well, actually, the movie needed to not suck. It needed a framework instead of just hoping the charisma of the actors could carry it. But it is not Brie Larson's fault. Everybody was adequate here. Brie Larson was fine in what it was. Monica Rambeau, the actress that played her. And then Kamala Khan, the actress that played her, Iman, everybody's going crazy over her. She was fine. But I don't really like kids in this stuff anyways, because it makes it very teen Disney anyways. She was okay. She wasn't as good as people make it out to be. But plenty competent. So the blame has to go to the producers that just, they meddle with everything. People with money, positions of power that just put their hands in the gears. And it just makes me more mad. The more I think about it, I want to cancel my Disney subscription because I don't want to feed the beast anymore. These people need to lose like so much money. So let's go over the plot really quick. There's going to be spoilers here, but the plot is simple. Like anybody that tells you the plot, like from the trailers or breaks it down, they told you all the spoilers. There's no surprises. There's no stakes. There's nothing of interest that happens. So it starts out with Dar-Benn on what looks like the set where they filmed the faking of the moon landing in 1969. And it's so cheap. Laura laughed because she was like breaking this thing to get this power gauntlet that was in, and she was like throwing the scraps away with her hands like it was styrofoam. The sets look so cheap through so much of it. And it looks undirected. These like static long shots. There's no actual engagement with the camera work, no style, no cinematic style to speak of. So anyway, she finds this bullshit gauntlet, something about opening a time jump port, and then she starts proceeding to steal resources from other planets because her home planet's struggling. So air from this one and ocean from this one and the sun over here. And oh, by the way, they're all planets that Carol Danvers likes because I'm petty like that. It was Mean Girls in space. And then somehow, and this is really fuzzy, and this speaks to how convoluted the plot was, because again, this was all exposition. You had to hear them say what was going on to get what was going on, which was fucking boring. So I blanked out on a lot of it. But somehow Carol, Kamala, Monica have their powers entangled and hijinks ensues. Like the mechanics of the power swapping, they could have done so much. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't related to the plot whatsoever. It didn't give them some unique ability to do something. It wasn't related to anything. Somebody's like, hey, that would be interesting. And then they just didn't do anything that like any mediocre gaming company would have figured out how to do. It was such a pointless mechanic. And I didn't understand until halfway through that they needed to use their powers at the same time. Because in the beginning, they're using their powers. They're like, why aren't they swapping? I thought it was every time. So then they'd have to restrain themselves and fight, handicap. But that wasn't it. They had to use their powers anyways. It was bullshit. Themes. Okay, themes in this mess. There weren't any. I don't know how charitable you have to be. You have to go in and pull stuff out that isn't there. You look at the dynamic between Carol, Monica, and Kamala. Carol's still dealing with fringe memory stuff from before that everybody's forgotten because it's been like 4 years since she was relevant in the Marvel Universe. Monica's mad because her auntie decades back told her she was coming back as soon as she could. And then she had the audacity to stay in space trying to save like civilizations of people. And Monica Rambeau's still mad about that. That was the one dramatic scene. And Brie Larson sheds a tear, guys. And Tommy Wiseau level stuff. That's what this was. It was the most laughable dramatic scene I've ever seen. There were no stakes whatsoever. But besides that, there was no real friction. Nobody has to get over anything. They all get together. They're buddy-buddy. Everything's fine. That was the end of it. There was no like, oh, we have to learn about teamwork. There was no story arc. 0 people changed as people throughout this. The villain, we're going to get to that shit, but the villain had 0 dimensions to them. So there was no like, they play the music at the end of the sitcom and they're like, guys, I learned today. None of that. So to that point, there were no themes in the movie whatsoever. I mean, even like Nick Fury laughing and joking the entire time in a way that makes you believe that there's no danger on the horizon. So that killed the dramatic tension as well. I could go on. The style, let's go to the visual aesthetic, the style. First of all, the direction's all over the place. Again, because of studio fingers, you could see. It just looks so much. It looks like B-roll from the last 20 Marvel movies. That's what it looks like. Nothing new was shot for this. It just recycled footage. The fight scenes are so boring and stock. The undirected scenes of like, again, no camera work to speak of. The style is also expensive but cheap. I don't know how they pulled that off. Like they land on a planet to sprawling landscape that looks kind of cool and detailed. But then when they walk inside, it looks like a scene from like Xena Warrior Princess down to just regular ass people, some of whom have paint on their skin, wearing weird fabrics. That's the alien civilization. And on this planet, people sing. And even that was so dumb. It was so stupid. But then you're like waiting to see what they do with it. It didn't even get to say what you will. At least Taika Waititi commits to a gag. That scene, they didn't even do anything with it. I remember by the time that wrapped up, I was like, did somebody just like eat an edible and shit themselves laughing when somebody brought that up? They're like, we got to go with it. They did. There was nothing to it. It was so dumb. So the Skrull, also, they look like Quark from Deep Space Nine. You're talking about a cable television show from 30 years ago. I hate the way the Skrulls look. It's so fake. again, like Hercules, 90s era cable TV stuff. These are the visual effects. And then that gets juxtaposed with like over the top CGI that you could tell ate the entire budget. I didn't laugh once. The movie didn't aim for like hilarity, but it definitely aimed to be lighthearted the entire time. And I was thinking the entire time of like every time Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow had a quip that was funny. It wasn't meant to be a punchline. It was probably ad-libbed, but it made the audience laugh. Or Jon Favreau always had quips. Even stuff with Thor early on and his awkwardness, the fish out of water thing. There were so many aspects that allowed the movie to be serious and have drama, but then a little bit of getting outside of that would lead to comic relief. This was lighthearted. I didn't laugh a single time. It really undercut the dramatic tension, which they didn't develop at all, but then they still tried to insist upon. So it was just so disjointed. As far as story goes, I've seen most Marvel stuff. I'm confused about how this is all connected. And I'm wondering what percentage of people haven't seen as much as I have and go and see this and are still lost as to what's going on. It's not even about like catch up on all the Disney Plus. You could do all of that. And points that happened were far enough away and in the backdrop because they're just unimportant where you're like, why would I remember any? And that's supposed to be the key dramatic tension. Again, it's stuff that doesn't have stakes to it. So this movie does not work as a standalone. It just doesn't, but it also doesn't work tied into the universe either. It's the worst of every possible world you can. And this, guys, this is a formula. This is how the story is told. It is Law and Order style, procedural discussion where you have people sitting around talking about what's going on, what happened, how things work now, and what we need to do next. And then it goes to a scene of like the fun and games part where now it's them being silly and relatable. And then it goes to a CGI fight breaks out and just wash, rinse, repeat. That's all of it. And it's mind numbing. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm sitting there thinking, why am I watching a movie that took hundreds of millions of dollars to make where it's me being told what the story is? It feels like I'm back on a Macintosh computer with a green screen from 1986 playing the Oregon Trail where everything about what I need to know about the game is happening on the screen in front of me. It's like if I wanted to do this, I'd read a book. So the storytelling is absolutely horrible. And then on top of all of that, as part of that mindless exposition, everybody knows everything about how everything is supposed to work. Again, no stakes. You have Monica Rambeau figuring out how to fly just off the cuff because she has to right now. And then she's trying to tell Carol, well, you can use your energy powers to go jumpstart the core of this dying sun. Obviously, it would work that way. And I've been trying weird shit all day. I believe in you, girl. That's the type of shit that was going on. And they'd be talking about how these wormholes work and how you know that you have to go fix it from the other side. And you know that like the mechanics of these things that they're saying in real time, like how do you just know all this stuff? And by the way, as you explain it, it doesn't even seem self-evident that it would be that way anyways. So it's almost fourth wall breaking. How you see the writers in the room just giving the bare minimum effort to try and tell a cheap sci-fi story and throw $1 billion worth of lipstick on it to cover it up. So let's finish off. Dar-Benn is by far the worst part of this movie by a mile. This is like there was a hole in the story where a villain or an antagonist should have been, and they just forgot to put something there. So these are 10 reasons Dar-Benn sucks. Number 1, costume is cheap and uninspiring. If you've seen Dar-Benn, you know what I'm saying. Again, Xena warrior princess level bad. Just a woman with some shit in her teeth and a regular ass plain robe or something with a hammer that belonged to somebody else. The costume is super cheap. It doesn't inspire anything that says intimidation, big bad. However, the face, the attitude, and strut of this person insists on itself that it's intimidating. So number 2, it's just the comical nature by which you see this female with nothing to flesh her out. No effects, no makeup, no CGI. I mean, you think Thanos, Ultron, like Dormammu, you think of these massive characters that are so much bigger than life. They don't need to have this depth of character because visually they're so like, oh my God, what the fuck is that? This was the worst of both worlds. Nothing visual, nothing dialogue, nothing to say that this is like the person you should be afraid of. So number 3, the dialogue is corny. It's void of everything, emotion. It's like monotone. This person has 2 tones. It's like the deep British accent that's telling you how I'm going to end your planet and bend the knee to me. And then there's one scene where she's kind of empathetic or sympathetic, where she's talking about saving her planet and you kind of feel bad for her for 3 seconds. But those are like 2 disjointed characters and they never meet up in the middle. Number 4, nothing, no action to convey big bad. Before I was worried about the way this individual looks, no action in the story. Again, it's all exposition. doesn't even really look like they kill anybody. Doesn't look like they really torture or like show anybody that they're ruthless. It was very bizarre to see. Number 5, the affectation. It's terrible. Like the whole thing, again, it's like this is what the person should have been in front of the green screen before they slap all the shit on, and then they just forgot to slap all the shit on, and we're seeing what was meant to be extras on like the DVD. It's bug-eyed, big eyes, open mouth, kind of trembling a little bit, and speaking in a deep monotone voice to give you like, I'm the English psycho that's going to end your planet. And it works with other characters, doesn't work with this plainly dressed female trying to drop her voice several octaves. Again, it is laughable. Number 6 doesn't feel like a person. They didn't write a person. Again, this is a contour. It's a cardboard cutout. It's not even that. It's the outline of the cardboard cutout that leaves a big hole, and there's nothing there. Again, no backstory that makes any kind of sense or that you relate to. I forgot most of it because it came through exposition and it was boring, so I zoned out and it wasn't related to what was going on. Even if you follow it, the bits I got didn't make a lot of sense. It's like placeholders that they forgot to put in. Like when a musician needs a word and it doesn't rhyme, so they put in another word that rhymes. It's a throwaway line, but then they just leave it in and it sounds like every Bush song you've ever heard that's just utter nonsense repeated over and over. Number 7, the backstory is lame and cloudy. The bits I got, like, first of all, the relationship with Carol, I still don't quite get. And it was petty. Like, I don't like Carol Danvers because she did this thing, so I'm going to steal planet's resources from planets she likes. Super bizarre. The taking the resources of the planet doesn't make sense from a logistical standpoint. Like, couldn't you take all the resources from the same planet? Couldn't you just terraform a new planet? If you can jump to other realities, couldn't you just go find a planet like Rick and Morty style? The whole thing was insane. Number 8, the hammer does the same thing as Ronin's with the Infinity Stone, but she doesn't have an Infinity Stone. Again, power doesn't mean anything. Everybody starts OP. They don't have anything new. And there's no sense of like stakes, again, because there's no obvious power disparity. And it's all just space magic. No matter what they can do, it's like the differences in powers don't even seem to make sense, which is why they're constantly telling you what their powers do. Because as far as the movie's concerned, it's shooting space magic bullshit at each other. Number 9, Eric Cartman variant of Kathleen Kennedy style gender swap. A swap doesn't matter if it's good. That's how we got Nick Fury. Samuel Jackson is Nick Fury. Fantastic. But if it's bad, you can safely blame the swap for it being bad because it means that took precedent over the character. And I just see the writer saying, oh, put a chick in it, made it gay. We're good. We're good. Mission accomplished, guys. All right, work is done here. And then where you should be writing something that's interesting, they just don't. So I fully believe that is a factor. They're checking diversity boxes. And these characters are like wildly uninspiring. And I don't think you can say it's the acting. I don't think you can say it's people don't care about strong female leads. They're just not interesting. And then the end of the movie, it alludes to like getting with Kate Bishop and putting together like a young Avengers. And then it's like, oh, I hear Ant-Man has a daughter. And then you realize it's all just like young girls that are all kind of bland. Even if Marvel retained the quality it did like 15 years ago, I'm not sure I want to see that movie. I don't know who does. So I'm eager to see what they do with that now that they've committed to it. And then number 10, the way Dar-Benn just dies at the end. Spoiler alert, but it's not really a spoiler. Something falls on her and stabs her. Carol Danvers thinks that they struck a deal and she cut to her humanity, pulls the thing off of her. Then she pops up and grabs the bracelets and flies off. And Carol Danvers flies after her and they fight. And then she just overloads on power and explodes. That's the end. Biggest wet fart of a villain I've ever seen in my entire life. This is my venting session. I don't know what value this is to anybody. If you enjoyed this, I hope you did. Let me know. But I know it makes me feel better. My blood pressure is already down a little bit from having seen this trash. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you agree, disagree with any of my points. Leave it in the comments. Check out some other reviews I did. I'm trying to build this channel from scratch. You can check out my other channel, which is all lifting stuff, which actually is coming in on 200,000 subs pretty soon. So that one did well. This is my guilty pleasure project. So let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Till next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.